Our big story that we're talking about today is a dispute that's been rumbling on for a while now. You've heard it quite a lot on BBC Radio Oxford. It's this plan to fire and rehire workers at the coffee factory in Banbury. Now, although the union has held a number of walkouts strongly opposing the new contracts, the owners, who are Jacobs Douwe Egberts, have announced that they are going ahead with the plans. Workers who have not voluntarily agreed to changes in working practices are going to be dismissed. They are then going to be re-engaged on these new terms that the company want to introduce, and that is all happening at the end of August. Well, James spoke to some of the workers at the demo only last week about how the new contracts are going to work out and what are they going to mean for them.
Frustrated because we're being put on different shifts and not being offered any more pay. I think the biggest surprise for me was they've been advertising in the media that the majority of people would get an uplift in wages. I didn't actually realize I was counted in that number. I'm going to be asked to work 12-hour shifts, 24/7, weekends, bank holidays, Christmas, and my uplift in wages is £40 a year. And someone's calculated that means another 77p a week for doing that, and they're saying that's a good thing, and which I don't agree with, obviously.
They're trying to cut our pay and changing our shift patterns. That if anybody that's got school-age children, they're on social hours. You can't get no childcare. So yeah, it's just a matter of all things that they just don't take into consideration.
We're all for change, but change for the right reasons. I mean, this company, we've lost all our workforce, literally diminished, but the management team have increased 2 or 3 times over. There's no need to do all this, none whatsoever.
You know, the local people are really behind us, as you can hear, all the people all the time. They're really behind us. Because it's not just 291 workers here, it's 291 families and the community as well. You know, the money we spend in the community, that's all going to be affected.
Yeah, my wife's over there, she works here. They're making her now going to work nights. She's never worked nights in her life. And do 4 12-hour shifts. My wife's never worked nights and doesn't want to work nights. So the people who potentially walk away, they don't seem that bothered. Personally, I think I'd like to see people leave off the old contracts. And they've also now shut our pension down as well. The DB pension's been shut down.
James has also been telling us how long this has been in the pipeline for and who's going to be affected.
Well, it's been in the pipeline for quite a while. It's something that's been rumbling on. They first introduced this back in September 2019, so that's when the process started. But then, like a lot of things, it was halted by the pandemic. So it was only in January of this year, 2021, when things got moving again. So there have been a series of formal consultations and individual conversations, as well as a series of talks with the conciliation service, ACAS. All of that ended earlier in May, and then the staff had until the 17th to sign up voluntarily to these new terms. And that was followed by what's called a formal period of reflection. So that's just come to an end this week, which is why JDE is now saying that those who haven't signed up will be dismissed and moved to new contracts from the 30th of August. So who does this affect? Well, it affects really the people on the factory floor, those on hours contracts, so essentially shift workers. So it doesn't affect people like admin, sales and management as well. So we think it's about 291 people at Banbury. Now, JDE maintains there are jobs for everyone.
What's the reaction from workers then after this latest development? Well, Chris Gray is the regional officer at the union Unite. Morning to you, Chris.
Morning.
How are people feeling about this morning then?
Extremely disappointed, but to be honest, they're not shocked. They're really not shocked. Every time the company has done something like this, and we need to remember that, as you've rightly pointed out, they recently closed the final salary scheme, which has affected a lot of people. But every time they have done something, our members feel more empowered to push back.
What is the next step then for your members?
Well, as we know, the company are following this immoral process of fire and rehire. It's a legal process, but we believe it's a flawed piece of legislation. There's members that have worked there for 30 years plus, and they've just been given notice of dismissal through no fault of their own. So people are really worried, but they won't let this happen. They just won't let this happen. So what happens next? Well, the fight continues. Members are geared up for continual industrial action. Hopefully between now and August, JDE will see some sense and will withdraw from this brutal process, because it is a brutal process. And the other problem JDE face is that come August, some staff simply won't come back.
OK, so what would you like to see happen instead of these new contracts then?
We would like JDE to sit down with the union and listen to our proposals and listen to our ideas as to how we can save money at that factory. We understand that changes need to be made, but not at this sort of brutal level where you've got people losing £12,000 plus a year, and loss of pay, loss of overtime, loss of shift allowance, and being forced onto shift patterns that simply won't work for these hard-working families.
And do you think more strike action is going to make a difference now at the point that you're at?
Yes, we do. It's unfortunate we've got to this stage. We're hoping talks will continue or start again. But in the meantime, we've got to protect our members, and members are keen, and I say keen, to continue with the industrial action. They really want to push back. And they also understand this isn't just about JDE and Banbury. They see the wider picture, and they can see this spreading throughout the UK. So we have to take a stance against it.
And you mentioned there that some workers might walk away from the company altogether. Do you have any indication how many that might be?
We're talking to people every day, and people are saying they've simply had enough. And they're not going to warn the company. So come the end of August, the company may just find that some of their critical staff don't come back. So the numbers are building, unfortunately. So I seriously think JDE need to come back to the table, look at their proposals again, and look at ways of working with us and their staff to make changes that aren't quite so brutal.
OK, what's the very next step then? Have you got meetings in? Have you got plans? What's the actual thing that's going to happen?
Unfortunately, no meetings planned at the moment. We're hopeful that the company will come to us. We are reaching out as we do. Our doors are always open, but the company needs to think about their proposal. The next step is industrial action on Saturday, the 5th of June, and then we're holding one-day strikes thereafter.
OK, so Saturday, 5th of June, more strike action. Thank you very much. Good to speak to you. That is Chris Gray, the Regional Officer at the Union Unite.